Radio Split Ranch.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Split Ranch, a monthly visit with the Capital Region's great radio personalities of the past and sometimes present. I'm Warren Garling when I'm not on the radio. If you just love our original opening theme and what's not to love, you can thank my friend, songwriter and entertainer Drew Jacobs, who is kind enough to donate his services for a mere monthly mention on this podcast. In fact, you can actually thank him in person when he's in concert again Friday, May 6th at Dorn Space on North Main Street in Gloversville. All the details are at drewjacobs.com. Visiting the Radio Split Ranch this month is a longtime Capital Region mainstay who made his mad mark on radio first as a top-rated Top 40 DJ on the top-rated FM 1980s and 90s WFLY Fly 92, and then settled into a broadcast journalism career on now 100-year-old News Talk Radio WGY. How did he get from there to here in one piece? Only he can tell all. Here's my crazy conversation with Mike Patrick, née Shadow Michaels. Well, Mike Patrick, there are two reasons I invited you here today. Mm-hmm. The first is, if you listen to the podcast regularly, part of my opening is I talk about speaking to personalities, radio, TV personalities of the past and sometimes present. And I meant that to be a little funny.
Each day is one of the past, though.
Yeah, there you go.
You never know.
But you're one of the folks that are currently on the radio. In fact, you're the first one that I'm interviewing that's currently still in the business. Everybody else are, or has-beens.
Mark this date down.
And the other reason is because of the, I think, award-winning work you're doing, interviewing folks for the 100th anniversary of WGY.
Thank you.
I keep seeing comments online saying, well, when's somebody going to interview you? And I thought, ooh, that could be me. And so even though maybe somebody will turn the tables on you and do one with you for the 11 years that you've been on WGY, I thought we'd give you a shot here to tell your story from the beginning.
I appreciate that, although I do have a minor bone to pick, not with you.
Okay.
Because I know, and your series has been excellent, and I know
Thank
that
you.
The people you have been speaking with are a lot of what we call the seasoned veterans, and you want to get them now.
Yeah, while they're not seasoning the ground.
Correct, but
Yeah,
the bone I'm picking with you is with your last subject, Brother Lou Roberts, because number one, he's younger than I am.
Yes,
so
that's
I
true.
should have had priority. Number
That's
two,
true.
I still have my own hair, and that has something to do with it. I'm sure what Brother Lou did is try to butter you up. See, Lou, I got a butter line in there. I'm on your case. No, it's seriously, it's great to be here. Really
Well,
is.
as I've mentioned in a couple of previous interviews, there are a couple of folks I was hoping to interview that are no longer here. And so I really was kind of going from the older to the younger, but now I'm just kind of mixing it up. And anybody that can get up the 5 or 6 steps to the Radio Split Ranch.
You're lucky those wasn't 2 years ago before I had my heart attack.
Yes,
I never make it.
That's true. That's true. So let's start at the beginning, and it's usually the first thing I ask everybody anyway is what led you to get into this crazy business, and how old were you, and what were the circumstances?
I didn't have my own station. I didn't do.
You didn't
all
have
of
one
this.
in the basement or in the garage.
I never did. What happened? I was aware of the radio probably before I was 10. My mother would put me to sleep at night listening to WROW.
Well, that would put you to sleep back
way
then.
back in the. No, this is AM now. This is the
okay.
AM.
Yeah, okay.
Back when it was really all beautiful music all the time, and that knocked me out. But then I also remember from listening back then. I can remember listening to Arthur Godfrey and listening to The Breakfast Club with Don McNeil.
Wow.
And just having that in the background while being aware of what's on television. And it just kind of, I always thought it was cool.
Okay.
And there were a couple of times, like if I'd be out at, I remember going to, there was a place called Salem Trader, which was a chicken joint.
Okay.
And this probably had to be in the late 60s, and I remember WPTR was out there on a remote, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
And then eventually we went over to Albany Street and started just talking to the guys out there.
Didn't everybody?
So so I was kind of right in the middle of not knowing what to do by the time I was in high school. Shaker High class of 74, go Boop Bison. I always have to say that. But I tried football, didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. But then I got into the theater in my junior year. And they did the big production that year was West Side Story. And I was and so singing and dancing, that was me. I couldn't do much of either.
Yeah.
I was enthralled by the theater. So I sat down with my mother and I sat down with my guidance counselor, Edward G. from Shaker High School, and I said, I want to be an actor.
Wow.
And my mother had this look of fear, and Mr. G had a look of fear. And Mr. G says, Mike, it's risky. You don't want to do that. You need a steady job. You need a steady career, one that you can have for life. How about radio?
Really?
And
wow,
who would have known
back
then, how ironic that was. So that got me to the only college I applied to, which was Ashland College, now University in Ashland, Ohio. He had the connections. They had a great 4-year broadcast class.
Cool.
So I picked up my bachelor's in broadcasting. I have an associate's in theater because I think they go hand in hand. And actually, theater helped me in my broadcast career because it helped me not be as nervous going on remote, doing concerts, things like that. I started learning about training. I started working my freshman year at the college radio station, and I thought I was all that. I learned years later that what I did on the radio was in college was dreadful. That came back to bite me in the latter years.
I want to tell you that I've already listened to some of what you sent me, and thank goodness somebody else has something from college, because I've got stuff from those times too. And the second I started listening to you, I said, oh my God, it's me in college.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we all sounded the same.
It was funny because I sent that tape and I sent it to my best friend back here, another guy that went to Shaker. And years ago when I'm working at Fly, he says, hey, Mr. Big Shot, Mr. Shadow, let's listen to this.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And good evening. Welcome to another edition of Revival for a Tuesday evening. I'm your host, Mike Marchinook, playing some good rock and roll for you up until 10 o'clock. It's a little bit of a shortened version of Revival tonight because of election returns, but I'm sure you want to keep informed and keep up to date. Our feature artist for the evening, one of my all-time heroes of the rock and roll era, a guy I had the opportunity to see in concert about 2 years ago, put on a fantastic show. He's called the grandfather of rock and roll, and it must be true. His name, Chuck Berry. We'll get into a little bit more of Chuck Berry later on. Right now, let's go to 1965 with Mr. Spider Turner. That's Spider Turner from 1965, redoing the old Benny King song from 1961 called Stand By Me, from that John Lennon just redid earlier this year, did a really good hit about it. You know, it's not too often in rock and roll music where some songs are written about war and army, good songs. There are a lot of protest songs, but this one was really a pro-military, and it was written in 1965 by a guy named Staff Sergeant Barry Sadler, story about the Green Beret.
But I actually turned that around when I was teaching at the New School, because I would take that tape and because it used my last name of Marchinook, which is who I am, and I played it, and I gave it to my students. I said, now listen to this guy, and I want you to critique him. And they're laughing. They're falling on the floor, and I play about 5 minutes. I stop it, and they're going, this guy's horrible. I can't see him doing anything. He'll never make it in this business. And I said, now let me play a tape of this guy recently. And I played one of my tapes. And their mouths all dropped, and I wasn't doing it to be a big shot.
Oh, no.
But my point was, if you do it over and over and over again, you're going to get better.
Absolutely. And if you listen to my early days on my first radio station, which was before college, you could tell, now anyway, that I was putting on a voice. I was trying to sound like the disc jockeys on WPTR, WTRY, trying to put on a voice. When I got to college, it slowly ebbed away. So I did use college to get to the real Chris Warren, the air. Our personality, Chris
So
Warren.
so I did that for a couple of years. It was WRDL, the college radio station and television station, and I actually did some on-camera stuff on the television station.
Good for you.
Things changed for me toward the end of my junior year, which would have been 1977. I had a friend of mine who was working at the only real professional commercial station, WNCO AM and FM. He got me. He says, "Listen, we got part-time gigs opening up," and that got me in. WNCO AM was automated. Beautiful music. NCO FM was live kind. We didn't call it country music. It was all American red, white, and blue music.
Wow.
This is during the bicentennial.
Well, that works. Yeah.
So I have always been a big fan of country, having listened. My parents used to listen to WOKO, listen to Barry Frank, and listen to Dave Denny and guys like that.
Sure.
So that started. So I had a weird career. Tuesday and Thursday night, it was 6 to midnight, and we split it 3 hours on the AM, 3 hours on the FM.
Whoa.
Okay. Saturday night, 7 to midnight on the FM, and then Sunday morning, 6 a.m. till 3 p.m. It started on the AM, and that was all the church music.
Sure.
And that was usually being a board op for the Indians ball games. And, of course, back then, you're young and stupid. Signed the station off at midnight, and in Ohio at the times, the bars closed at 2:30.
So you had
and I'm
plenty
going,
of time.
I got 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I take the station vehicle right down to the biker bar, have myself more than my fill, try to make it back, knowing that I have to be on the air at 6:30 that morning. And we had a loft upstairs, and I left a note for my friend Roger Price, who was my cohort then. I'm drunk. Wake me up.
Yeah.
Well, Roger couldn't climb the stairs, so he'd be taking bricks and throwing them up and hopefully not hitting me. And then he would be all nice and fresh, and we used to do a sign-on simulcast newscast.
Wow.
And Roger would be doing his voice, and here, blah, blah, blah. And now with WNCO Sports, here's Mike Patrick, and of course, here I am, the ghost of Lucille Ball. Ricky, good morning, the Indians lost again. And it hurts to think about that.
Yeah.
So that worked out great. I was not going to as many classes, but I was learning radio. Then we come to the big moment that kind of helped me, and this was in 1978, the blizzard of 1978.
Okay, yeah, and what a training ground too, between college and a state, two different stations with two different formats. Right. Plus, it sounds like you're doing news and sports. I mean,
we had
what it was.
When I'm working on Sundays, I had to make. I've heard, a lot of your guests making news calls.
Sure.
I have no idea what they are.
Yeah.
I had to do farm reports. I have no idea what barrels and gilts are.
Yeah.
Hog futures. I'm worried about my future, not the hog.
All been there. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So when we get to the blizzard of 78. And I got involved with it. It was a Thursday afternoon. I'm driving around with one of my friends from the radio television department. Hey, you know what? They may need me. Drop me off at the radio station. That's Thursday. Saturday night, I finally get out of there.
Oh, God.
We were snowed in.
Yeah,
we had to have emergency vehicles come in to bring us supplies and bring us smokes. Because out of the 10 or 12 people, only about 2 did not smoke.
Right.
So everybody got 1 pack of cigarettes.
Oh.
And we kept, and it was comical because we kept running around stealing everybody else's cigarettes. And they'd steal ours.
Yeah.
But we lived that way, and that forced the radio station to go 24 hours.
There you go.
So after that, it worked out very well. So management said, well, you know what? Let's go 24 hours. And this is going to come out, and the timing could not have been better. That was right when I was graduating from college.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm going, ooh,
yeah,
I'll do
right,
it.
right.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
And that started it from there. So
Segued
my
right
first job was the first overnight shift. And to be there in the middle of the night and all by yourself, and you're playing records, and it's an eerie feeling.
Oh, yeah. I've done it.
And back then, I really was burning the candle at both ends, so there were times where I didn't necessarily get the proper amount of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
This is live radio. This is records.
Yeah.
So I would have it. This one time I can remember, I'm going, you know what? I just got to stretch out for a bit. Just for a second. And all we had was 5 minutes at the top of the hour for Mutual News.
Okay.
So Mutual, okay, I'm just going to lay down on the floor and I'm going to listen to what's going on. 45 minutes later,
God.
here's Larry King, Pittsburgh, come in. Hello, what's your question? Oh, no. And you know, at that point...
Of course, it was the middle of the night. Was anybody from the station listening? Did they catch what you did?
No.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, and this is a little borderline, but it's an actual true story.
Okay.
There was a guy who was on before me, and I will not give his name, but he was introducing a song by Charlie Pride. You know who Charlie Pride was?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And if anybody who knows anything about country music, it's country Charlie Pride.
Oh, yeah.
So he's going into the song, blah, 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 blah. Here's a brand new song from Colored Charlie Pride.
Oh, no. Oh, Jesus.
And he turns off the microphone, and I said,
Did you?
Do you know what you just said? Whoa, what did I say?
Yeah, right.
You called him Colored Charlie Pride. It's supposed to be country. And without flinching, he says, it's like 11:45, almost. And he says, look at the phone lines. Are they ringing? No. He says, well, it's one of two things.
They're either
People are not listening, or people just don't care.
Don't care.
And at that time...
Or they were astounded that it was
well,
said.
there was... that sort of set some high marks or low marks for me in my broadcasting career. But at that particular time and in that particular part of the country, I hate to say it, but probably it wouldn't have made a whole bunch of difference.
Not a little ripple. Yeah.
So
crazy.
So from there at NCO, I'm there. So this would have been 78. I just graduated college. I stayed there for a couple of years. One of my first of many stunts that I've done over the years was what we called, I think they called it a pickathon. It has nothing to do with your nose.
Okay, I hope not.
It was an attempt to break the Guinness Book of Records for the longest guitar playing.
Whoa.
The art of playing guitar did not matter.
Okay.
Because, and it was a benefit, I think, for the March Dimes.
Cool.
To raise money.
Yeah.
So the idea was, for Guinness rules, you had to hit a guitar string every 5 seconds to keep going. Guinness rules, you either go an hour and you rest 5 minutes, or you can go 24 hours and you get 2 hours.
Wow.
Now, they just wanted me to do my all night show there. And I'm going, well, you know, I can do this.
I can keep up with
I
this,
can
yeah.
stay up all this time.
Sure.
And do this. I'm young and I'm not athletic, but so that was the first thing. So we started on a Tuesday, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I got my equipment. And, every 5 seconds hitting that darn thing. And then I got to my shift at midnight to 6, and we kept going. Well, I could take a 2-hour break because I kept going 24 hours, but the longer you go, the less time you want to go, and then you need that break.
Yeah.
So I was doing great. I wish I had air checks of that time because I had live commercials I had to do.
Oh my Lord.
Oh no.
Really?
No. Everything worked out great until that Sunday night when the station signed off and I had nothing to do.
Oh boy.
That's when what we call the first of Mike Patrick's breakdowns happened. And I gave up. So what happened from there is I'm dating a local girl who had just got back. She went on a little break with her girlfriend. And a couple of days later, we go back to watch whoever's going to break the record at this point. I'm still exhausted from being up for a week.
Sure.
Apparently, I had a couple of adult beverages, and apparently I proposed to this girl, and she said yes. Cut to the following morning, and we're there, and she says, "Do you remember what you said to me last night?" Now, Sort of. But that was an opportunity. I said, yeah. Did you mean it? And I'm too much of a gentleman here, and I'm, why, yes. Yeah, yes, I do. We forgot about the fact that I was sort of engaged to somebody else at the time. But so this would have been, well, let's see, the one I was engaged to, I call that ex-fiance number one. The woman from the Pickathon was what I call ex-wife number one. Fiancés and wives are two different things. So we quickly got married. One of these things. My mother didn't come out from Ohio. That's another issue, which is why I became ex-wife. This is drama. I'm telling you, you're asking. So anyway, we'll go through this. I continued at NCO. I went from the overnight. Then they put me in afternoons. One of the greatest times I had at NCO was the summer of '77. I did everything.
Nice.
I did summer shifts. Yeah. I did 2 weeks doing the morning or midday. And then if I had to fill in for the morning guy, and he was a member of the American Legion. So every week we had a live broadcast for 3 hours. It was Tuesday night out at the local VFW.
Oh, gee.
And they had horrible live bands.
Yeah.
And a country band with a steel guitar cannot play Wipeout. I'm sorry. They tried.
Let me ask you, are you using your real name at this time?
No, I stopped that.
Okay.
I stopped it.
After college, you found a...
Mike Patrick is my middle name.
Okay.
And I just went from there. I'll hold a story for when I hit my next station that included my use of my real last name that almost got me in trouble with the police.
Oh.
Okay.
All right.
So we move on, and I'm filling in for everybody. I was on the air when Elvis died.
Wow.
And
I was on a train.
I was doing news, so I did like a 5-hour special that night.
Wow.
When I filled in for, and I did this thing at the VFW, we had the bands. And again, this is sort of like Mason-Dixon line stuff.
Okay.
So it's in August, and I go in the back between the two bands, and it's hot.
Yeah.
I'm always hot. And somebody gave me what I thought was a glass of water.
Uh-huh.
Mike, cool down. It was Squeezins. It was White Lightning.
Oh, geez.
And if you've ever heard that George Jones song, that's exactly what it's like. And I took a big gulp, and that's the last I remember for that night. So I did almost 3 hours in a moonshine haze, somehow wrapping up the broadcast, breaking down the equipment, because we had a big Marty system that was hooked onto the truck. And then from there, drive 45 minutes in the dark and make it back.
Yeah.
So, my career is on a low track right about now.
Nowhere to go but up.
Well, supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
I moved there to Mansfield, Ohio, the station over, and I do, this is radio station WMAN. It was sort of a full service, sort of like GY.
Yeah.
They played whatever music was there.
Yeah.
They had local talk shows. I was bored up. I did a trivia show once a week. I did an oldie show once a week. I bored up a lot for Cleveland Indian games.
There you go.
That was the time where I lit the radio station on fire accidentally.
Oh, good.
Running a game. You could smoke in the studios back then.
Sure.
And I was smoking back then, and I'm bored one night. It's a high school football game. So you take the alcohol, you take the Q-tip. I'm going to clean the heads of the cart machine.
Okay, there you go.
Well, by pure accident, the alcohol spills onto the lit cigarette. The board is now on fire.
Oh, lovely.
Flames are coming up. Meanwhile, the game's still going on.
Sure.
The guy's calling for a spot, so I'm jumping over the flames to try to hit the spots. At this point, I'm the only person in the building, and please, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry about this visual image. My shirt is off. My pants are off. I'm just down to the tidy whities trying to beat this fire out. God. I got it out, got the Lysol, sprayed everything from there. And I thought, I'm looking. It looks good.
Looks like it's fine.
Great. I can get away. I'm not going to tell anybody.
So it was the alcohol that was still probably burning
It was the
more than
alcohol
anything
burning
else.
more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I thought it was fun, except the next morning, the guy who came out at 6 writes a little discrepancy sheet. Did we have a fire? The telephone cord is melted. I looked everywhere but there. That was the second time I almost lost my job, and so we continued from there, and I love the small stations because it was a great learning ground.
Oh, absolutely.
It really was.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could make, and this is the problem that I think we have with contemporary broadcasting.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that opportunity anymore to make a mistake.
It's true.
Even for a part-timer to come in and voice track, you've got to know this stuff. And there's no one to train you. There's no one to tell you if you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong.
And you used to break in on the midnight shift because they knew that if you made a mistake, it didn't mean as much as if you did it in the middle of the day when people were all paying attention. Yeah,
correct. Yeah. So this takes us to around 1983, and I was getting really worried because all my friends were getting, like all the people at NCO, they were going on, all the people at MAN, they were going on, and here's little Mikey from upstate New York, and it's like, I'm going to live in Mansfield, Ohio for the rest of my life. And no, I don't want to do that. I lucked out, and there was a job in Elyria, which is a suburb of Cleveland, that I went in 1983. It's WBEA or B107 at the time. Mm-hmm. What a great learning experience at this place. This was a true WKRP experience. Yeah. It was a beautiful music station. The call letters BEA, that was named after the general manager's wife.
There you go.
Her name was Beatrice, and she used to walk around, my name is B, my name is B. She was annoying as anything. And the general manager used to be known as the Polka King of Cleveland. And he used to walk around in these dark pinstripe suits, and he wanted all of the air staff to wear suits and ties. Oh. We were now a rock and roll radio station, and we still had to wear suits and ties.
Wow.
So this is where ex-wife number 2 comes in, which is somebody that I knew from Shaker, a year behind me. By coincidence, and I won't name names, her father was in charge of a retirement home somewhere in the Capital District.
Okay.
We were really hard up for money. So we got some good government cheese.
Okay.
Well, there's no such thing as good government cheese,
but
or the canned meat. But also, and I'm not making this up, and I have pictures. I got dead guy suits. Okay, because they knew I needed to wear suits. So I'm walking around. Here it is, 1983. I'm walking around the radio station in a zoot suit. They look really cool.
Yeah.
But then I had enough money one day where I could get myself a pinstripe suit just like the general manager. And he used to smoke these big cigars like this all the time. So I used to follow him around in the suit upon suit. And everyone's following, and he never noticed, or if he did, he didn't say anything. But this radio station was it's the greatest staff I have ever worked for or worked with, because the management, to be kind, didn't have a clue what they were talking about. The general manager is a nice guy. His son was in charge.
Yeah.
He called himself the operations director. He's not program director because we don't have programs. Okay. To give an example how little this guy knew, he would, back in the day, we would put music on carts.
Sure.
So normally you want to have it as tight as possible. Hit the cart, hit the record.
Yeah.
And it'd be right there. Well, what this guy would do is he would start the cart, take a puff of his cigarette, and then start the music. So there could be anywhere from 5 to 7 seconds of dead air that he kept on the cart. Mm-hmm. And then if he's not paying attention, the ending of the song was off. And I can remember to this day, Take It Easy by the Eagles. It's got that banjo thing at the end.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't paying attention, so he just started hitting the pitch button toward the end to make sure that it got into a 3.5 minute cart. Barely.
Geez, yeah.
Or like he put in songs, And if it was skipping at the end, he would keep
just
it
leave
on.
them there.
He
Oh.
just kept it right there. So we had sabotage. So what we did at this point is our night guy, he would come in and he would redo all the carts one by. Then he would make a little mark, like he would fill in one of the zeros or the O's.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
knew that one was tight.
Okay.
And then we got, we worked it from there.
Yeah, yeah.
But this guy
Oh, Lord.
he was a piece of work.
Yeah, yeah.
And for some reason, he liked me. I don't know why. I it's not like I have a stunning personality. Hang on a second. So, in time, the old man retired. New general manager comes in, and then he gets canned. So Sonny Boy gets canned. We bring in a new program director. Now I'm doing mornings. I went from overnights, because that was the last shift they had, in 1 week to afternoon drive.
Wow.
And eventually they put me on mornings because they
Cool.
because they didn't like the morning guy.
Yeah.
Bring in a new program director from somewhere in Iowa, and he comes up with this wild idea. He was down he read about in Florida, some idiot disc jockey tried to set a world record in the I can't remember the name of the stadium, wherever the Dolphins were playing.
Okay. Yeah.
Sat in every seat in Miami Stadium.
There you go.
Okay, not
Cool.
that bad.
Yeah.
So he says, Mr. Mikey, I was called Mr. Mikey then. Mr. Mikey, we're going to have you sit in every seat in Cleveland Municipal Stadium.
Cool.
Okay, all right. That shouldn't take that long. How many seats are there? He said, there shouldn't be that many. There shouldn't be that many. It should be like Miami.
yeah. Yeah.
79,201 seats.
You counted them.
Yeah, they told me right before I started.
Yeah.
So we were.
How long do you have to be in each seat?
You just got to touch them.
You just got to touch them.
It's the same Guinness rules. You
Yeah.
could go for 24 hours, rest 2, and everything.
Yeah.
And even back then, I wasn't what you call a physical fit. So after about the third day, the knees went out.
Yeah, sure. Up and down.
we had to have people grabbing me, pushing me in the seat, pulling me back up, back and forth. This was done during a year when it was an All-Star break.
Okay.
This was a year the Indians, no, they were the Indians. They're not the Guardians now. They really didn't draw. So by the time you get to the upper deck, there's a couple inches of dust on all of these things. But the idea was simple. I started in the bleachers. Mm-hmm. I slid across the bleachers. I still have blisters in my and I've got splinters actually in my buttocks from going through that. Started again 10 o'clock into Tuesday, Saturday afternoon around 5.
God bless you.
I went through all of it. We went to raise money for tornado relief for part of Ohio. We didn't hit our goal, unfortunately, but man, did we get publicity.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the Indians weren't there, so there was a guy at the NBC TV affiliate. His name was Waylon Boot.
Okay.
And everything to Waylon Boot was bodacious.
Alrighty.
I find out that Waylon Boot is also a Stooges fan, as I am.
Sure.
At the time, the song that was on the chart from Jump in the Saddle Band, the Curly Shuffle.
Curly Shuffle, yep.
So he would come out to do his sports reports at 6 and 11, and he'd be doing the sports reports, going seat by seat with me, and he's got his copy, and we're going back and forth. And then after a while, they start playing the Curly Shuffle, and we're hitting seats in Cleveland Stadium, just kind of bouncing up and down, having a great time.
Yeah, but the publicity, my
Publicity was
goodness.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish we could have raised more money,
Sure,
but it
sure.
really helped.
Did you break the Guinness Book record or not?
I broke my buttocks is what I broke after 79,200 and whatever. No, so I think somebody else eventually, it's one of those records that everybody eventually is going to break.
Yeah.
So that worked out very well. That would have been 85. A change in staffing, because I think the program director wanted to do mornings now. because I got to say this nicely, he was involved with one of the female staffers at the time.
Of course.
That's as far as I'm going.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, the two of them are doing mornings. They put me on the automated AM station with beautiful music from 7 to midnight, as if to say, you better go, son.
Yeah, you got to find someplace else.
That sent me sending out tapes everywhere.
Sure.
Which brought me back home to Albany.
Cool.
To Fly 92.
There you go. So what year are we talking about?
This would have been October of 86.
All right.
And
this is where I remember you from.
Now, my name that we've talked about, Shadow Michaels, the Cry of Desire, the Dove of Love, the Bust of Lust, the Mighty Party Beast of the Great Northeast, it's all because of Mike, don't call me Michael Morgan.
Okay.
The program director on and by the way, my first day there at Albany Broadcasting, I'm on the air that night. First day.
Okay.
It's sit in with everybody.
Sure.
Look at the board. Yeah. You're live at 7.
Okay.
By the way, you're following Michael Morgan. You can't use Mike Patrick.
Yeah.
What name do you want? I'm trying to remember the call letters here.
And they're giving you all this notice.
And it was the program director at the time was a guy by the name of Steve the Magic Christian. Okay. He was a good old boy from down south with some buck teeth, and I remember that. He used to say, "Hey, Bubba, how you doing?" Which just didn't fit in Albany, especially at the time. You gotta come up with a new name by tonight. So. About 5 o'clock, he says, go get something to eat. By the time you come back, I'll have a name for you. You'll have a name. And he called up his consultant, and Shadow was just one of these names.
Okay.
That is a radio name. And then everybody else uses a variation of your name. So sure. Shadow Michaels. Oh, okay.
That works. Sure.
That's fine. And so now I got to remember who I am, and I got to remember where I'm working. And again, petrified because it's a whole different system.
Sure.
If you've not worked a top 40 radio station before, that's very tough.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Maybe it's obviously it's different now with automation and voice tracking.
Right.
But if back then we had 4 cart machines.
Sure.
Everything was on cart.
Okay.
There were no CDs.
Okay.
At the time.
Yep.
We had a huge reel-to-reel for doing phone calls, and a horrible turntable in case we needed something, but we never used it.
Okay.
But everything was all on cart.
Yeah.
And
but only 4 machines, and that's pretty good. If your music's also, well, I shouldn't say that. I worked at a station, we had 3. And it was all cart. It wasn't all cart. I'm sorry. The oldies were disc, were 45s and albums. But the currents, we had a top 45 and some extras. They were also 3 we got by with. So I guess 4 you could do.
But what we had to do sometimes, and everyone's gone through this, who's done this business
before
you're getting ready. Okay, stop the cart, flip it upside down, so you don't put it on that stack. So when you have time, you can cue it back up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes it didn't.
The next guy found out that it didn't.
But when also, and in addition to this, when you're working 7 to midnight at the time on a top 40 station, them phones is going.
They're all the time. Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
So you had to deal with that, and then you had to record all the calls.
WFLY, Troy, Schenectady, Albany, is Fly 92, with at least 10 in a row.
Shadow Michaels,
he's crazy!
Fly 92.
Living on a slide, and that was Shadow with a ratty B-O-O. Taking your calls at 476-9200 for the top 10 at 10. Give me. What do you want here? Beach Boys, Fat Boys, and Monkeys, Bon Jovi, White Snake, maybe Michael Jackson. Call me up right now. I'll take them for you. Here with Shadow. Make sure you're listening for that motorcycle sometime in this hour to go. When you hear it. Call 10 is going to get a New City Rockers album and maybe get that Raz motorcycle from Jerry Phibbs. What now? Ho! Hang it up, Shadow. a big uh-oh to that voice, huh? Fly, not a Jew. Fly, not a Jew, but no. Ramana, heard the rumor rapping on channel 0943 with channel. We have the lines closed. No more voting for the top 10 of 10 and no more dedications for the love line. Don't forget, we have to stress this. That remember, many other people try to do love song dedications. Many other people try to do countdown shows. But they have to copy from somebody. But as long as they copy from the best, it don't bother us because you're always going to come back here. Hey, coming up this weekend, big stuff. The MDA Muscular Dystrophy Telethon starts Sunday night, 9 o'clock on Channel 6 WRTB. And this is a real big thing. We like it if you got a couple of bucks to make a donation, if possible, to MDA. You can call up the numbers you're going to see on the television starting Sunday night. Fly 92 will be there out in force. The Fly Van is going to be at Hoffman's Playland. That'll be on Route 9 in Latham. And that'll be Monday from about 11 in the morning to 2:15, something like that. I'm going to be out there all during that time. And then we'll take the Fly Van out to Balltown Road. Yes, that place. We'll take it out there, and we'll do our little shtick on the air in the studios on what they call the VIP phones, so you have a chance to maybe give me a call right there in the studio and make your donation for MDA. We kid around a little bit, but this is real serious stuff. So if you have a chance to get in, put a couple of bucks up, stop out at Hoffman's on Monday or watch the telethon and see me out there and give me a buzz on the television Sunday afternoon.
And I was just getting my feet wet, and Todd Pettengill was just the morning guy at that time.
Yep.
He was working with Susan Churchill. I'm blanking on the guy who does middays. It was Tom something.
Okay.
And then Michael, don't call me Mike Morgan, was doing afternoons.
Yeah.
I did nights. And then we had Mary Sinclair, or Baby Jock. I can say this now because everything. We used to call her Scary Mary from Schoharie.
Okay.
Because she had one foot that was shorter than the other.
Okay.
A little bit, and she used to hop around for a little bit. And she got into the business. This is the Lord's honest truth. She got into the business because she wanted to, quote unquote, meet Duran Duran.
Okay. There's a good reason to get into the business.
And
yeah.
The second year Duran Duran played at SPAC.
Oh boy.
We sent Mary. We didn't see her for 2 weeks. I think she went on tour. I'm really not sure. So it was around this time. Fly was there.
Oh yeah. Everywhere.
There was nothing to it.
Yeah.
Picks at the time ruled that town. It was very powerful. Even this would have been Rock 99, I think it was. You know, and we were just there.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to break you. So Pettengill takes over as program director.
Okay.
And one of the greatest things he did to inspire us, and if you're listening right now, you want inspiration. And it was so simple. He, in the studio in front of us, we had two landscape pictures.
Okay.
One showing Albany and the other New York City. Perception, reality. We're in Albany, but we're going to act like we're in the number one market in the country.
Okay.
And it worked.
Wow. Yeah.
It
yeah.
worked because we had that mental mindset, and then he started letting us go.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, try this, do this, and you know, don't say those words. Don't say anything you shouldn't say.
Sure.
But do whatever you think works.
Go to the edge if it works for you. Yeah.
And that's actually where I first got to meet Brother Lou.
Okay.
Because he was working at TRY AM at the time. He was doing nights. So we were competitors. Sure. And every once in a while we'd chat. And we used to, before the internet, we would have these messages back and forth like we were hoping the other would listen. I won't share any of them because there's still lawsuits.
Yeah.
But we would share these back and forth. So by being able to open up as quote unquote Shadow, that's when things I was inspired, and I know you understand this, I was inspired by the guys I grew up with. I was inspired by Boom. I was inspired by Jerry Tyler.
Yeah.
All of these guys from PTR and TRY and SNY back in the day.
Yeah.
So I took that energy.
Yeah.
I took that drive and I brought it into the 80s because the little boys and girls, they didn't know.
Yeah.
Tonight's topic of discussion, boys and girls, is Dave Records Redpath in reality an alias for Salman Rushdie? If he is, he's still at Maxwell's, boys.
An Albany Broadcasting Communications station. Shaking the air.
WFLY, Troy's connected to Albany, the Tri-Cities #1 hit music station. Thanks to you, we're #1 again.
Fly 92, Albany.
Jamming at the speed of light. And now, another 10 in a row. 40 minutes of a fresher mix with Shadow Michaels.
City's best fly 92. Yes, they've let me out of my cage once again. Aren't you lucky? Shadow doing 10 in a row. We got Bobby Brown this hour, Debbie Gibson as well. Right now, here come the Bengals, because you on here. Tri-City's best fly 92. Shadow doing 10 in a row as we take your calls. 476-9200. You know what they're for. Right now, top leader as far as the top 10 at 10, Tone Milk and Funky Cole Medina. You want something else? Let me know. Tri-City's best fly 92. Wrapping up 10 in a row with that emotion. It's 7:38 with Shadow on the radio. On the way, Taylor Day. We got Millie Vanilli and your phone calls at 476-9200 for all sorts of goodies for tonight. The weekend's here, so let's get loosen up a little bit. By the way, you may be heading over there now, or you may be planning on doing it for tomorrow night. Over at Guptos and Secrets out there in Lathamut on Route 9. Tonight and tomorrow night, we've got some of these caramello bars. We got tons of these things here that we're giving you a chance to just kind of grab there. And at the same time, get in on all the fun and maybe get some good big bucks too. When you get the candy bars, you collect all these wrappers and you stretch them all out, you tie them together any way you can, as many as you can. Handwritten facsimiles are also acceptable. And then again, you're going to bring them out to Crossgates Mall on the 25th, a week from this Saturday, and we'll have a big thing out there. Hundreds of dollars in gift certificates from Crossgates Mall. So tonight at Guptos and Secrets, get the caramello bars, enjoy yourself, kind of dance and kind of skate around. And meet us at Crossgates Mall coming up on the 25th. Here's what we're looking at for tonight. Mostly clear. It's going to be kind of chilly. Low down to 25. Tomorrow, look at the weekend. Ow! Sunshine. 45 and made it higher. 36 right now at the airport. 35 in the plaza. You want warmth? Oh, you got to turn on your radio at Hot at 92.3.
So I'm having a great time. I'm laughing at my own jokes because I don't care if anybody else is doing it. And it started becoming popular, and Fly just turned into this thing.
Yeah.
There were two things at night that we did. One was called the Top 10 at 10, and it was all listener votes, and it was honest. It wasn't stuff that we made up, like we're going to play these 10 songs and show you. No, I did
very
it.
honest.
I
Good.
did it. I kept my little blah, 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 and play these things, and we tallied them up every night. And then there was something called the Love Line. Now, the Love Line, I decided to do it different, and they didn't like what I did, because with the Love Line, when you're a teenager or younger and you have heartbreak or you're in heavy lust, you want to play a song on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
And those lines were burning.
Hiya, Shadow.
Hiya.
Could I make a dedication for the Love Line?
Sure, what do you got?
Okay, I'd like to dedicate Always to Terry in Albany.
Right.
Love Jim in Burn Hills.
Okay, Jim, how come?
Well, see, like a couple months ago, like in October, I had gone out with her, and she broke up with me because she likes someone else, and, I really like her still, and over that period of time, I really didn't let her think, and and I really like her a lot. I mean...
Well, yeah, but what's she got to say about this, Jim?
Well, not too much. I went to go call her back, and after I heard from her friend that she didn't want to go out with me no more.
Well, yeah.
And, her friend told me she didn't want to go out with me no more, so I never heard from her after that.
Well, this is back in October.
Yeah.
This is March, Jim.
Yeah, I know.
You're talking about 6 months.
Yeah, I know, but I really like her a lot.
Yeah, but is she still going out with this other guy, Jim?
I don't know. I haven't talked to her in a while. And I really like her a lot.
So you just want to put a bid in there, give it a shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, I mean, you're still warm for her form, as they say.
Yep.
Right. Well, hey, let's see if we can give you a shot. Where you calling from, Jim?
Burnout.
Okay. Well, maybe you can knock out this other yeehaw if he's still out there, and you can sweep her off her feet again.
Yep.
Good luck, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, Shadow. I want to play a song to my boyfriend Joey. I love him forever, Shadow. Okay, well, what? How long you been going out with Joey? 3 weeks.
Yeah, right.
You know, or, and I was always get this one time. I want to send a song out to my ex-girlfriend. She's horrible, and I'll that's the word I'm going to use.
Yeah, yeah.
Why? Sure. What would you like to hear? You can love a bad name, Bon Jovi. And by putting on these kids,
Yeah.
I took the time. I would have a conversation for 10 minutes with one kid.
Wow.
If they wanted to talk about it,
Yeah.
because I always thought that if somebody has a problem of that age, everyone else is going to identify.
Yeah.
And that's why those lines kept going.
Yeah.
And there were certain songs, Crazy for You by Madonna. That was always what I call a Love Line classic. Mm-hmm. Any of the Chicago stuff from back then.
Yeah.
Anything from the Journey collection from back then. And it got to be popular.
Yeah.
And I would have people send me letters. When I get the letters from say the reformatories of I want to hear a certain love song, I made sure I got that one on just in case if there's an early release program. Yeah. But Fly was the one that really opened it up for me.
Sure. How long were you there, Mike?
I was there a couple of times.
Right.
I started in
86.
86.
You said? Yeah.
And then we changed a little bit. By the time we get into 91, they're making some changes at the station, and it was presented to me that a former general manager of the radio station, Shadow, you're doing really well, but you're 35 right about now. You sure you can relate to these kids?
Yeah.
And of which I would say, well, look at my numbers.
Yeah.
Well, we're making some changes. You have a choice. I can make you promotions director, or I'm going to fire you.
Wow.
Well, I'll become promotions director. And I did that, and then I did a weekend shift, and it was fine. I enjoyed it, but my heart wasn't in it.
Sure.
It just wasn't.
Sure.
So, I think they kind of knew eventually, so they sat me down, and they let me go.
Okay.
Everybody gets one.
At least.
I've got a couple of them.
Yeah.
And really, at that point, I thought my career was done.
Sure.
I thought I said I hit that pinnacle as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I got out of the business I was still teaching. I was teaching at the New School of Radio and Television.
Yeah. Tom Brownlee was terrific in the respect that he always had teachers that were active in the business. Okay. Yeah. And most of us had at least part-time, if not full-time jobs in radio while we were teaching kids that wanted to be, not just kids, anybody that wanted to be in radio.
And the people that I worked with, of course, Tom Hahn. Charlie Mertz. I love Charlie.
Great guy.
Walt Adams,
sure.
I taught with.
I taught him.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did, yes.
Look at that. And one of my favorite teachers I had was Julian Starr. When he was over at WQBK.
I remember the name.
Yeah. And with Walt, by the way, a side note about teaching at the New School. Walt had this great idea, and I went with him, that if you went to the New School back then, it was very routine. It was cut and paste.
Yeah.
They were doing imaginary radio stations, and we said, and Julian was doing the same thing. Let's make this real. Pick a real radio station.
Okay. Yeah.
Get a copy of their jingles.
There you go.
Play the music on that station and do it from there.
Yeah.
So one year we come up when I'm teaching with Walt. Let's do. Let's put the kids in a parade. Because that's what radio people do.
Okay.
They go to parades.
Yeah.
Schenectady Christmas Parade.
I'll be darned.
So we had a group of about 10, 12 in the class.
Okay.
Got a long flatbed truck. Walt drove the truck. We had another student who had a karaoke system.
Okay, so you had a way to talk to the crowd.
And I walked. I keep hitting that thing.
Well,
Sorry.
we use our hands on the radio, so it's understandable.
Here, give me a rope. So we did this parade, and I had been off the air for a while.
Okay.
This was what got me back into radio. Again, I'm working at Wildwood Programs in the residential program. Loved it. I thought that
Nice.
was it. Okay, that's
Yep.
great. So the student on the mic, he's talking to the crowd, talking them up, and he says, "Hey, yeah, we're from the New School of Radio and Television. If you look at the guy driving this truck, that's Walt Adams. He used to be on K-Light." Applause.
Yeah.
Okay, that was cool. And you see that big fat guy walking down there. He used to be on Fly 92. That's Shadow Michaels, and I got applause.
Some applause. Wow.
And
Yeah.
it'd been a couple of years,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to sound big-headed.
No.
But I'm going, oh my God, they
remember.
They remember.
Well, you made
and
an impression.
Something
Yeah.
started clicking
Yeah.
in me.
Yeah.
So shortly after this, I'm still teaching at the school. I'm still at Wildwood. And this is probably going into 95, maybe, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I get a call from Mike Flynn, a.k.a. Jammin' Jim Steele.
Okay.
He's working at K-Light. Todd Pettengill, at the time, was consulting
Yeah.
K-Light.
Yeah, because he had moved on from here
He's
to...
done at PLJ. He's done in New York
City. Yeah.
But he's got the side gig going on.
Yeah.
So Flynn says, Shadow, you want to go back on radio? Todd said he'll put you on weekends.
Wow.
So, oh, how come Todd didn't call me himself? Well, I said, you're being a flunky. I said, well, let me think about it. So the next day, I call Mike, don't call me Michael Morgan. And I said, listen, Todd said this and this through Steele. Didn't you give me an open invitation? Sure, Shadow, anytime you want to come back, come on.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to come back. And this is on a Tuesday. He says, well, we're running open house party on Sunday night. I'll take it off and Shadow's back this Sunday.
Wow.
And it was just like that.
Yeah.
So now it's been about 5-6 years since I've been on the air. I'm rusty.
Sure.
So on that Friday night into the overnight, for about 3 hours, they gave me a test shift where I went as Chad O'Michaels.
Okay.
It's midnight. Chad
O'Michaels.
Fly 92. Hi, it's Chad O'Michaels. Here's the Beastie Boys. And it now everything was different. Now they're back to doing the CDs, and now they got computers.
Yeah.
Now it's not that pound like you used to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So I started doing 7 to midnight on Sunday.
Fly 92.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't tell me I won.
If you don't want me to, that's okay.
No, you can.
All right, you won.
Thank you.
Just who is this?
Candace.
Candace?
Yes.
Candace, just for calling, do you like to shake your booty, Candace?
Yes.
You do?
Well, kind of.
Well, do you shake it for yourself or anybody else?
Myself.
All right, well, just in case, you got a copy of the Ultimate Dance Party CD, courtesy of us. Another chance to win between now and midnight. Fly 92. Today's Honda says Fly 92.
The Prince concert didn't get canceled, did it?
Unfortunately, yes, it did.
Is it postponed or just canceled?
It is canceled. We got that information today from the Pepsi Arena.
No kidding. Is it rescheduled at all? Or?
We have not heard a date on that. If we have a rescheduled date, we'll get it on the air. Fly 92 with your crier of desire. Shadow Michaels, what Jam starts today. Got another 50 minutes of today's hottest hits. Starting right now.
Today's hottest hits.
Fly 92.
Is this Shadow?
Yeah.
Okay, you said that all the girls love you and all this and that. Can I say something?
Sure.
And a lot of the younger girls will agree with me. We all love Mike Hortz.
No, is it because he's just a young stud?
No, it's just my mother even loves him.
Really?
Yes, ask her.
And
Don't you love him, Mom? See, we all love him.
And how often is this? How often is your mother love Mike Hortz?
No, we call and talk to him when he's
Oh,
on.
you love him, you don't love him. I understand.
Yeah, I have the biggest crush on him.
Well, he's free and single as far as I know.
Yeah, I know. His girlfriend broke up with him before Christmas and he had to bring all the presents back.
That tramp.
He said that tramp.
Well, I'll pass the word along to him.
Huh?
I'll pass the word along.
No, he already knows because Brian embarrassed me because one night I told Brian and Mike was in the background and he heard and they put me on air and I was so embarrassed.
Oh my God.
I want to apologize to America because
I think the statute of limitations has run out, but go ahead.
I hope so, because during that time, and they gave me carte blanche. Rob
Nice.
Dawes and Mike Morgan said, "Your shadow, do whatever you want." You
Nice.
never say that to me.
Yeah.
Okay, because I can go over the line, and there are air checks that will prove this. At the same time, I was dating what is now my wife, Nancy, a lovely woman. I was heavy in lust, very heavy in lust. It reflected in my air checks.
Mm-hmm.
It reflected, and I'm really surprised that I did not lose the license for the radio station because I got kids listening.
Yeah.
When I hear some of those tapes now, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's great, but it's like if some mom came in,
Yeah.
we'd all be out of a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
It went from there to they got rid of I gotta remember now, what was it? Well, I think it was KZ96. No, it was, I can't remember what they were. Eventually it became Power Country 96.3.
Okay.
Eventually that became Jams.
Okay.
So they wanted to have a Saturday night guy on this contemporary country station that sounds like Fly. And they wanted Shadow Michaels with a cowboy hat, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it started from there. So then I'm doing both Power Country and Fly. And then eventually the morning guy on Power Country, Al Scope, he leaves. I said, here's my chance to get into it.
There you go.
So I fought and chewed my way, and they made me the morning guy.
There you go.
So it was myself, a guy by the name Just Plain Dave, and then Jamie Roberts.
How
so
about that?
we were working together on Fly.
Sure.
And then so we're all working together. And just during this time I was like, okay, I'm back in the business. Circumstances, our daughter Megan needed a calming effect.
Okay.
She didn't need to be in a downtown situation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go somewhere. Nancy gave up the state after 20 years. Let's go. So we look at all these places around the country to go. That brought me to Columbus, Indiana.
Really?
Working at WKKG, the big 101, and they. Have you ever been to Indiana?
Once.
Okay. They didn't know what to make of me because I'm not a calm, shy person. My first week, they were calling for me to be exercised.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know. Here's this fast talking guy from New York State.
Yeah, and he's possessed.
And he got the weird thing. And then I had at the time we had a miniature dachshund we named Earl.
Okay.
So he was my co-host.
Okay.
So it was Big Mike and Little Earl. And I stole from Imus.
Okay.
You know how Imus had the time duck?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, nobody out there knew who Imus was. So I got the sound effect
You
of
could
this.
steal from a great one, and they didn't know he was
Absolutely.
who he was. Yeah.
So I got a sound effect of a German Shepherd barking.
Barking.
Thinking it's a little miniature dachshund.
Yeah.
You know, Indiana country, 8:15, 15 after 8. Good morning, get your head out of bed. It's Big Mike. And so we took the top 40 level there.
Mm-hmm.
And Earl was a massive hit. They didn't care about the fat guy on the radio.
No.
Oh, look at the puppy.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
would bring him out to all the remotes and everything.
Oh, God.
And that's also, it was a WKKG. And by the way, referring back to the Ohio days, Indiana, and I'm sure it's different because this was the late 90s now, Indiana had a reputation for being a bit of a backward state.
Okay.
Okay. When we, and I'm saying this as a joke, by the way, to anybody listening to this, but this is not my creation. Somebody used to say WKKG, one letter away from a good time.
Oh.
Okay.
Man.
Horrible. Horrible.
Ay.
If you know anything about that part of Indiana, you kind of understand that.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It was. But I mean, and I'm being very serious now. That part of the country at that time was very much like that.
Yeah, that's
very
crazy.
much like that.
Crazy.
So WKKG was where I had my first foray into being in a wrestling ring and actually performing.
Okay.
They had these small, not WWE at that point, but just smaller wrestling organizations come by. They do a fundraiser and everything, and they had this one group, and they had a guy, I can't remember his name now, but he was a heel manager. He was the bad guy.
Okay.
So they were going to set something up of doing a loser has to wear a diaper match. And of course, I ain't wearing no diaper.
Yeah. So you're not going to lose.
So I'm not going to lose. And we had the whole thing at the time because I was really playing the country guy. I had this big old 10-gallon hat that I used to wear all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we set it up that night. Now, my wife knew that it's choreographed. I would not say fake.
No.
My daughter, Megan, same thing. So the guy comes in to do the show with me, and he's ripping me a new one. He's ripping Miss Nancy. He's ripping my stupid dog, and on and on and on. And we're screaming at each other at this point, setting this thing up for that night.
Yeah.
Draw a huge crowd. My daughter, and I come down, if you know, there's a song by Link Ray, Rumble, I think it is.
Okay.
Okay. Great instrumental, just bad. Bad to the bone, sort of. I walked down to the ring with this song. So the bad guy is in the ring, and my daughter is really into this. She's probably about 17 at this point. She goes right to the ring ropes, and she looks at the guy, and the guy's ripping on her. And all of a sudden, she says, "You don't say that stuff about my mother." And she reaches back with a full, this is not a Chris Rock, Will Smith moment. She smacks him right in the face, left a mark that was there for the entire match. And I'm going, Megan, I'm really proud of you. Yeah. I got to go against this guy in the ring.
Yeah.
I'm going to die. I'm just going to die. So he had a really good sense of humor. So we did that. And then I started doing a couple of other matches. Small stuff, nothing big. Although I do have I was, if you know anything about WWE,
sure,
I was the partner of the Big Show.
Okay.
We were a tag team.
Jeez.
And he went against Mark Henry, who was the world's strongest man, and this same heel manager. So we had everything all set. And it was mostly Big Show and Mark Henry. Didn't think anything of it. At one point, they take out Mark Henry. He grabs the manager, pulls him up into the ring. He says, "Big Mike, it's your turn." So what do? I'm not thinking. I crawl myself to the top rope.
Oh, jeez.
I jump off the top rope and do a frog splash on this guy. 1, 2, 3, and everything worked well except one night, a couple of months later, it was a different organization. They weren't as professional.
Oh, boy.
A guy went to do what's called a clothesline on you, where they take the arm straight across.
Yeah.
Here's a little hint. The smaller the wrestling organization, the harder the mat.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
So he got me, and my head hit the back of the mat, and I saw stars.
Oh, boy.
And that was my next to last match.
Yeah.
So, move on from Ohio. At this time, on a personal level, my mother, who is back in New York, was going through Alzheimer's.
Oh.
I needed to get
You need to be home.
closer.
Yeah, closer anyway.
And as much as I hate it leaving Indiana, family comes first, always.
Yeah.
Well, you know this business. You just can't pick up and go to another station.
No. Of course, it helps to know people. Did you
it
know?
does.
Did you know some people?
I did, but there wasn't anything there at the time.
Yeah.
The closest I got was in Vermont, in Barry Montpelier, Vermont. It was Froggy. Everybody's got a Froggy.
Yeah, right.
Everyone's got the little, like the guy in Glens Falls. Same thing. So, and everybody had frog names. So now I go from Big Mike Patrick to Big Mike McFly. Why? Not just because of the fly, but frogs eat flies.
Yeah.
Made sense with me. I brought Earl up, and we had that thing, and I was doing mornings. Had a grand time. I used to love up there. When we were in Vermont, we did a thing in Vermont called 30 Towns in 30 Days. We did with the morning team of our CHR station.
Okay.
Vermont's a small enough state.
Sure.
So every morning for 30 straight days, weekdays, we were in another city in Vermont.
Wow.
Doing the show live.
Yeah.
Learning
nice.
everything.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing.
Absolutely.
That we ever did.
Great promo. Absolutely.
So we do that, and then my last wrestling thing there was it was tied around. There was another wrestling organization with more of the names that you would know that would be in there. The guy was doing mornings on the top 40 station. He says, "Hey, McFly, I got an idea. How about you and I do the first match as a challenge?" I'm stupid. I'm dumb. Yeah, okay, fine. As by coincidence, the night of the match was Elvis's birthday.
Okay.
I did a remote that morning at a furniture company that was selling Elvis furniture. I was dressed up as the Fat Elvis. I shaved. I dyed my hair jet black, and I was in pajamas. I looked like and I decided to wear that night. So we go in to do our match, and we had it as coordinated as possible. Things didn't turn out like it was planned. I fall through the rope. My face hits the concrete, swell up.
Yeah.
We're riffing at this point because we have no idea.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a guy by the name of Doink the Clown comes in. He says, "I'm going to break this up. I'm going to grab your shoulder. Follow me." And he grabs the two of us. Bump. Clonk, head clonk. We roll out, and then we get it. And that was the last of my wrestling days.
Yeah.
So I was up in Vermont about a year and a half. Still trying to get back to take care of my mom.
Sure.
That brought me with the same company down to Pittsfield
Yeah.
and Berkshire County.
There you go.
Where I'm working at WBEC, WUPE,
Right.
plus overseeing the stations in Great Barrington and in North Adams.
Cool.
I did air shifts. I was actually ops manager for those stations.
Nice.
During that time, again, my mom was, it fit the bill, but I really needed to get back.
Yeah.
Really needed to. And if you've not been through that with a loved one who has that,
Yeah.
I still get, it's over 15 years and I still feel it.
Yeah.
Just to see that.
Yeah.
So I'm still looking to get back here.
Okay.
It happens 2007. There's a sales job with Clear Channel Radio.
Huh.
I'm going, I've never sold before, but I understand how it works. So I applied, and oh Lord, I'm forgetting his last name. He was with the Firebirds, Joe. You'll know who I'm talking about, or somebody will. Anyway, great guy. He hired me. Vera Hope hired me as a salesperson. So now it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So now I'm in the suits, and I was responsible for WGY, coincidentally. WTRY, and I think Fox Sports.
Wow.
And I did that for a few months. Loved it, but I was about 20 years late getting in that game.
Oh, yeah.
Because there were also seasoned salespeople who were there. They had all the big accounts.
Sure they did. Yeah.
And so I got something out of the business for a short while, still wanting to get back in the radio. So around this time, this would have been around 2008. You mentioned Walt Adams. Walt Adams had left his position up at Froggy up in Glens Falls. Kevin Callahan, who was in charge of Albany Broadcasting, one of my former students, by the way.
There you go.
Worked it around, so he hired me to be the program director and do the morning show up there with Kate Sullivan. Grand time. And I told Kevin, I said, I'm your former teacher. Don't treat me like that. I want you to treat me like the fool that I really am.
Yeah.
And he said, I've been waiting for years to do this.
Well, if there's one lesson I learned quite early in the business was never to burn any bridges, because you just don't know along the way who's working for you that you may be working for down the road.
Absolutely.
You
And
know?
I'll give an example of which. I got my job in part in Indiana because of a guy named John Foster. John Foster I worked with in Mansfield, Ohio. He was sports director.
Okay.
By the time I'm looking at going into Indiana, he's the ops director.
Wow.
And he saw my name.
Yeah.
And it was because of that he knew me, that he brought me in for the audition.
There you go.
So there's
Yeah.
a clear example.
Sure.
That you know everybody. So I was I had a grand time. Darn thing again. So I was while I was there, I'm living in Schenectady, and I'm driving to Glens Falls every day. That's an hour up, an hour back. I'm doing the morning show. I'm program director. So I'd get there at 5 in the morning. Sometimes I'd leave 2, 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And hour back.
Yeah. You're talking 12-hour days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was starting to get to me.
Sure.
But, and they kept trying to say, well, Mike, why don't you move up to Glens Falls? Well, yes, but my grandchildren are in Schenectady. I'm staying with my grandkids. Mm-hmm. That led to the big time was 2010. And unfortunately, that year, I totaled 2 cars.
Oh.
The first was in the winter, and all right around exit 14 north.
Okay.
On the Northway.
Northway, yeah.
And the first one, I went from one lane to the other, and I was okay. That was the first one. The second one, I wasn't okay. And it was the end of June, and it was pouring rain, and I hydroplaned.
Yeah.
And here comes a row of trees, and I go on elbow side in. So needless to say, Mike wasn't doing anything for a while. So they kept me in the hospital, and I was and I went for a couple of months. So during all of this time, I said, I can't do this.
You can't
anymore.
keep doing that.
I cannot keep doing. My wife is yelling at me.
Yeah.
You'll love this business, but don't do it. So I said, okay, I'm going to look around. And I'm trying to find anything at this point.
Sure.
I've got nothing.
Yeah.
By a pure coincidence, this would have been early 2011.
Okay.
I hear about an opening at WGY.
Yeah.
And they're looking for not necessarily people for WGY, but people to do newscasts for other markets. It's a foot in the door.
Yeah.
I've never done news full time. I've done it here and there. I reach out to Chuck Custer, and I thank Chuck Custer to this day.
Oh, yeah.
Because Chuck had faith in this old fool. And I went in, and I the night he said, come on in, I'll go over to the news school. Mike Flynn is there. Give me a studio. I cut a cast, and we start from there.
Wow.
So I got hired from there. So, and they had a big number of hiring for that day. It was myself, Diane Donato, John Craig.
Sure.
Jim Gagliardi for the second
or third time.
Yeah. So most of us were doing things for the other markets. Then in time, things started to change around.
Yeah.
And eventually, then I started doing more what we call out-of-market casts in the morning. First with Reed Shepard, and then with George Morris, and then George goes on. And I've been making my pitch for all these years that I love what I do with the out of markets. This is my home. I want on WGY.
Yeah.
That's if there's a way to put the cherry on the ice cream for me, it's to end my career one way or the other at that radio station.
Yeah.
And I've been extremely lucky that they've moved me over now. And for the last 3 months, 4 months, I've been doing the morning news, working with Doug Gowdy and with Rachel Davis.
Absolutely.
And just having a blast.
Sounding good.
Okay, 8:39. Mike Patrick in for Joe Gallagher, News Radio 810-1031 WGY. WGY began broadcasting in February of 1922. with any luck after this next segment, we will continue to celebrate our 100th anniversary coming up in 22. All right, now, Brother Lou Roberts, who joined us last hour, is there, but now we have Chris Warren from 98.3 WTRY.
Occasionally,
and,
Me too.
And well,
Yeah, true.
oh, that's right. I
Occasionally,
forget you do that every once in a while. But I mean, this is a this is a meeting of the minds, and it's just mindless.
Yes.
Now we were. Now, Chris, I know we were talking before. Lou, I learned something from Lou that I never knew before. Lou has gone by different names before, and I know you and I have talked about that, different on-air names that you've had before. That's something.
Just somebody taking a break out the window.
And anyway, but I mean, we've all gone by. Was there any particular reason why you went by a different name in no one pointing your career?
Well, the first time I was on the radio, they gave me a name because they already had one of those jingles. You know what jingles are, where they sing a name. You know?
Which Johnny Williams were you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I was Jesse James when I first went on the radio because I worked at the home of the All-Americans, the old WSNY in Schenectady. And so they gave us names. I worked with George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Chester Arthur, John Tyler, and many of these folks are still out there. In some of them in radio.
We've all worked with John Tyler.
For
the record,
that's true.
As a matter of fact, Joe Gallagher's worked with those people, but he actually worked with George Washington.
Right, exactly.
I'm enjoying being in here for Jim Gaffigan. I really am. This is great. This is fun.
No, but that was always one of the, and when you talk about with the great All-Americans, and I just, this question just hit me here because you've got John Tyler, you've got George Washington, but then Jesse James. Okay,
I don't know how
Jesse
that fit
James. That was an outlaw.
Yes, an
how
outlaw.
did that fall into a great American?
I don't know, but they had a jingle and they said that's who you are, and I said okay, if you say so. I mean, I already had Chris Warren picked out as my air name. I got it from a girlfriend in high school who thought it Christopher Warren just kind of sounded like Christopher Robin.
I thought you got that from the phone book.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No.
There was a guy years ago that I can remember, and it's no longer around, so I can say a WPTR, but I was always fascinated by his air name. His name was Chris Topher.
Oh, yeah.
And Topher, too, for Chris Randall.
It took me, in my little pre-teenage years, it took me a while to figure out, I see now. Zach's looking at it now. Now
what the heck are you talking about?
I can figure out Chris Topher.
Yeah,
and he would have this one piece of tape sped up. He'd drop in and go whoopee pickle, and that's what it sounded like.
Whoopee pickle. Yeah.
I remember that. He was one of my favorite jocks to listen to.
Yeah,
but when you think about certain radio guys and just different names that they've had over the years, and why either they're given the name, like I think you have the Johnny Williams line from a lot of stations.
Gave me a name. I can't say it on the air though.
What's that?
They gave me a name and I can't say it on the air. I've been given it by a lot of people.
Zach won't let us.
Okay. No,
I gave him the sign over here on the mic.
He's got his hand on the butt. But I mean, it's kind of fascinating that sometimes, and every once in a while, where you run into people, it's like, I remember when you were this and you did this and everything, but it's just part of the
it was what the business was for many years. And what you were told you needed to do was give yourself two first names, basically, okay? Because it was easier. They were easier to remember. So it was Bob Roberts, and Bill Williams and, things like that.
Mike Patrick.
Mike Patrick. There you go. Chris Warren. So it's, one of those. It was just what radio was. And you got to remember also that back in the day, and I'm making myself sound, like I've been on the radio for 50 years, which I have.
Hold it.
But back in the day.
Records.
Okay. Yeah, right. You remember records? But back in the day, you got to remember that you used to have to pay to keep your name out of the phone book. Okay.
Yes.
You had to have an unlisted number. Okay. Yep. So if you went, home, you're home on the weekends. You're not working weekends, but your phone's ringing because little Shirley wants to hear, Sugar Sugar by the Archies, and she's calling you up on your home number because your name's in the book.
The one exception that I know who you're talking about is probably the greatest top 40 disc jockey in the Capital District, the late great Boom Boom Brannigan. When you look in the phone book, it's right there. Brannigan, Boom Boom.
Well, you know why?
Why?
Because he did record hops and gigs.
Yep.
So that was the way. Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
You know,
because
but
when you're
I
in
was-
radio, you're not making a lot of money. You need to do
You're
something
not?
on the side.
Oh.
Yeah,
What are we doing there?
it's in a book I wrote.
Lifestyles of the poor and famous here.
So,
That's good. I like that one. Poor and famous.
Chris, this is a big day for Lou because basically this is
Because he's sitting next to me.
well,
too.
that would be it. But
This is,
just
well,
the-
we used to. Another life at
Yes.
TRY.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, this is his first real shot at working at on WGY.
It's my first live thing on WGY.
Wow.
You know,
And you had to wait till Jim Gaffigan was out of town to do it.
Yes. Yes.
But I mean, I could see you and I have known Lou for quite a while. I mean, I could certainly see him coming in here on some Saturday or Sunday morning.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
No.
And Lou's the
No.
reason I got back into radio after getting fired for the first time.
Tell me that.
Well, I got let go from a station I was with for like 12 years, out of the blue, and I wound up working in a completely different industry. And I had no problem with that. I was finally making some money, and could pay the mortgage. And then
To which he looked at the check going, is this wrong? I
yeah,
don't think
this
this
must
is
be
right.
wrong. This can't be right. I didn't know you could put that many zeros on a check. So I after a few months of real work, I called Lou up one day. He was on the old 980 TRY, and I said, "Do you think there's anybody, somebody at your station that might let me work a few hours on the weekend?" And I was really looking for the only way to appease my wife is just to work from 6 to 10 in the morning. So then we had the rest of the weekend.
Sure.
Okay, we could take off on vacation at 10:01 on a Saturday,
Makes
and
sense.
we're all
Yep.
set.
Yep.
So he said, "Well, I'll put a good word in for you." And within a few weeks, I was working Saturday mornings, 6 to 10 for about 4 years, right alongside this guy. Yeah.
Wow. Hold that thought. We're going to take a break and we'll chat for a little more. Chris Warren, Lou Robertson here, where it's Nostalgia Radio, AARP Radio, on 810 1031 WGY.
Shenny.
And a couple, 3 years back, I remember you bringing up in front of a bunch of us, because I was working part-time for iHeart as well, and I remember you talking about, the 100th anniversary is coming up.
Yep.
And then and occasionally you'd do some news for Joe Gallagher on a Saturday or Sunday morning, and I'd be there. And it would come up in conversation, and you said, we're going to do something. Something's going to happen here. We're going to make sure this doesn't go unnoticed. And so this has been in your head for at least 3 or 4 years that you
much more
wanted
than
to
that.
make sure. Yep.
I have, everybody has a bucket list, and 2 of my bucket lists got taken care of on this past February 20th. Number 1, to be around for WGY's 100th, because
You survived.
Just the idea
Yeah.
that any business has gone 100 years.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
a part of it. So that was number 1.
Sure.
Number 2, of which you were a part of, is being able to get back on stage in our little radio drama.
Yeah.
Now, in that particular case, yes, we had scripts.
Mm-hmm.
I still would like to be able to get into a production. But the idea that even though we had scripts, I'm on stage.
Yeah.
I'm playing a character.
Yes.
So those are 2 of my bucket lists.
Yeah.
The one that I have that I'm still hoping, the good Lord willing, and iHeart will let me. I'm 66. I would love to be able to hang on till 71. That's 50 years in the business. It's not necessarily totally obtainable, but it's not out of the way.
Hey, none of us know. None of us know. I was there for 18 years, and all of a sudden I wasn't there.
Right.
And never saw it coming. Never understood why the little bit of part-time work I was doing for them would make a big difference if I wasn't there. But these things happen, and so I decided that's pretty much it probably for me. Although I've had a couple of feelers out, but if I don't get back into it, I'm cool with it.
No, at this point in my life, we were joking sometime a couple months back. We took these new formal pictures for of the WGY staff.
Yeah.
And I'm joking with our program director Jeff Wolf. I said, "Can we have copies of these, because I'm going to need them for resumes?" And he says, "Wait a minute, I thought you're retiring." I said, "That's my plan. the company may have another
Other
idea.
exactly.
You don't know. And of course, Jeff knew I was joking,
Yeah.
just like all the boys and girls listening right now. I love what I do.
Well, I've got to thank you. I don't want to interrupt you, but I got to thank you before I forget to for bringing me into that anniversary live radio play, because one of my bucket list items was to do the same thing, was to do a radio play. I truly believe that if I had been born maybe 30 years earlier, I would have been a radio actor. Because I did the same thing with you that you did in junior high and senior high. I was in musicals. I was in dramas. I loved being on stage, and I enjoyed that a lot. Never did it since, but I always had a problem with memorization.
Yeah.
But you put a script in front of me.
You're fine.
And I have no problem. I mean, I'm going to give you a performance, So when the opportunity came up, and I really should thank Jamie Roberts, who I subbed for many years on WTRY, she had to bow out, and I wind up, subbing for Jamie one more time, from the play, and I get to jump in there, and I have to thank Jeff, and again, you and everybody that was involved with it, because it was my swan song, probably, being on live radio, and what a way to go out, It was great.
The crowd that we had that day,
it was like double the size we were expecting.
The actual script was tremendous,
terrific.
And by the way, if you go to the iHeartMedia app, you can listen to the set play along with all the other wireless programming. But yes, it was great. And I'm going to say this also, because part of the reason I'm sure I'm here is because of our association with what I call the old fart radio luncheons that we do. And I am truly honored to be part of this group. When my first couple of times sitting in with you guys, I was a kid in the candy store because here's, guys like you and Cudmore and Arnicky. And then
Dick Wood would come by.
Dick Wood. Yeah. And I mean, and here's Dick Wood, and you're thinking, here's Dick Wood, but oh man, did I hear Dick Wood. and what I learned, and I would tell Lou Roberts this after a while I got comfortable, because I didn't want to speak up. Because you guys were telling these amazing stories, but you guys embraced me to get into this group. And I would tell Lou that, if we were born 30 or 40 years prior, the behavior of you heathens that we have in this group, I'm thinking, here we are, our generation, we're doing this and we're saying that because we grow up watching and listening to you guys, and we're thinking you guys are like gods. But then I hear some certain conversations. By the way, Dick, thanks.
Yeah. And you found out we put our pants on the same way you do.
And you just made me so comfortable. But I mean, and again, it's part of the history of this business in this area. But anyway, you got to keep that going.
We'll keep it going. It's a fun group, and it's been almost everybody that I've interviewed so far are, part of that group. There are some folks just outside. There are some actually that have moved back to the area in retirement that we're going to be, adding to the group. And some people that you haven't seen in a while or heard in a while that are now getting invites. So we're going to continue to grow this little lunch group as long as they'll, have us at the restaurant we usually go to. And, we're not always the loudest table, but we give it a good go,
We shout in memory of Dick Wood. Okay, and one of the greatest, and I'll share this because and I love Dick Wood.
Yeah,
an amazing broadcaster.
He was terrific. Yeah.
A bit of adult language thing that's going on. We all know that. So we're in this one reserved restaurant one day. And Dick's just going off like a sailor. He's just,
And he didn't know how loud he was sometimes.
He would put George Carlin to shame with some of these words. And I can remember seeing this group of little old ladies, and they were shocked.
Yeah.
You could see the hair turning white. Their mouths were dropping, but all of a sudden, wait a minute. That's Dick Wood. What a nice man. And it's like, wow, that's power, baby.
Yeah. No, he was one of a kind, and we miss him all the time.
Absolutely.
And raise a glass to him all the time as well. Well, Mike, this has been terrific. And I
hope I didn't go too long. I got a big mouth.
Not at all. There's what's fun about this is, it's not radio, it's podcasting. It can be as long as it wants to be. I've had people call up and say they've fallen asleep in the middle, but they pick it up and come back to it and listen to the rest.
And to my credit, out of the 7 big words, you didn't hear one.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So I did my star for the day.
We try to keep this at PG-13 level at least. I kind of keep my granddaughter, my 12-year-old granddaughter in mind. She'll be 12
See, there is
next month.
difference because you have your 12-year-old granddaughter where I have 3 grandsons, 18, 14, and 8. And for the 2 older ones, it's Big Mike Jr. I have to say, I'm a bad influence on these boys.
Yeah.
But we love it.
Well, I'm glad you do. And I'm thrilled that you got through some health scares last year and a half ago. 2 years. 2 years ago now. Wow.
2 years
Time
ago.
Flies.
2 years ago where I had a heart attack.
Yeah.
They tell me that I had some before. That didn't know it because of being diabetic. You didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then that led to a bypass.
Yeah.
And never want to go through that again.
Absolutely.
And God
changes
bless
your life.
God bless my wife Nancy because she really was right there for me, and I have her to thank for that.
Good. Well, again, thanks for dropping by the Radio Split Ranch.
Always my pleasure.
And we will catch you on the radio.
Radio Split Ranch.
Once again, there are so many other stories Mike could share with us, and perhaps we'll get together again for more of the Mike Patrick story down the road. But the road he took to WGY included 15 stations he actually physically worked at. That doesn't include another 14 or so that he's been heard on doing news for iHeartMedia throughout New York and New England the last 11 years. So let's just include the 15 where he's actually walked the halls, and that brings our running total from 9 interviews so far to 108 stations by all our guests. That's up to date. You gotta love our business. To wrap up our time together this month, I thought it might be fun to hear another college kid trying to learn the business, like we heard from Mike earlier in the podcast. If you listen to the audiobook of my memoir, I'll Have to Ask My Mom, available through Audible, you heard a bit of Chris Warren in his formative years. This check is from the fall of 1970. I had just landed the Saturday morning shift on the Carrier Current College station WCSB Radio 640 at Graham Jr. College in Kenmore Square in Boston. After 15 months working at WSNY in Schenectady as a senior in high school, I was still doing my imitation of what I thought disc jockeys should sound like. But at least you'll enjoy some of the music. And listen for some cue burn and some cart starts. You'll hear some of those throughout as well. In the meantime, I hope you'll check back with us at the Radio Split Ranch again next month. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Chicago, number 17 this week from WCSB in Boston. Does anybody really know what time it is? Of course, it's 7 minutes after 9. I'm sure that's been used before, but thought I'd throw it in. It's a Saturday morning, Halloween, October 31st, 1970. Our current temperature in the Back Bay area is 40 degrees. The United States is the noisiest country in the world, and it's getting worse. If nothing is done about noise pollution, in 10 years, our environment will be twice as noisy as it is today. Find out what can be done about it by sending for your free copy of Noise Pollution. All it takes is a self-addressed stamped large envelope to Noise, Massachusetts Audubon, Lincoln, Mass. 01773. The Supremes get it on at number 23 this week from WCSB in Boston. Stone Love. Stone Love. Can't you feel the stoned love of the Supremes? At 11 minutes after 9. Good morning, Chris Warren coming your way till 11 o'clock this morning. And it's Steve Paul in for Jim Shannon. WCSB. Neil Diamond. main man, Neil Diamond, and He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, the old Hollies tune from just last year. Right on WCSB at 9:15 in the a.m. Fair this morning, followed by slowly increasing cloudiness during the day, the high in the 50s. Cloudy tonight with the lows in the 40s. Chance of a few showers developing by morning. Cloudy tomorrow with a chance of rain or drizzle, and the high temperatures in the 50s. Currently, the Boston Back Bay temperature is 40. And I see that bad moon rise in Creedence Clearwater Revival.
I see that moon rising.
Lower the voting age, end pollution, pull out of Vietnam. Listen to WCSB Total Radio on November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. until the end of election night for complete coverage on Election 70. Follow Election 70 on WCSB and hear what your choice candidate has to say. Find out who the winning candidates are. WCSB will carry total coverage on candidates from Boston, New England, and the states from around the country. Find out who's winning in your hometown. Find out all. Tuesday, November 3rd on WCSB 640 in Boston.
That child lost his mother to love me. The most music, Total Radio.
The Jackson 5. Oh, yeah. Number 2 this week at WCSB in Boston. Little Michael sings, I'll Be There.
You and I must make a pact. Don't you know, baby, I'll be
At 24 after 9 on the AM side of a Chris Warren show, here till 11 o'clock this morning. So happy to have you along. You can stay tuned for Steve Paul, in for Jim Shanahan at 11 o'clock this morning. He'll take you up to sign off at 1:45. Going up the news headlines now, this is Paul Moriarty in the orchestra. At 9:26, these stories make WCSB Total Radio News headlines. President Nixon will campaign for Republican candidates to the Senate in Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and New Mexico today. South Vietnam's monsoon rains are forecast to continue into next week. So far, rampaging floodwaters have killed 100 persons and destroyed 40% of the rice crop. Officials say those aboard a national DC-8 Airlines jet hijacked to Cuba last night should come back to the States today. They stayed at a Havana hotel through the night. The Soviets ridiculed the U.S. contention today that U.S. aircraft violations of Soviet airspace has been accidental. The Russians are still holding 3 U.S. military officers whose plane crossed the Turkish border last week. The third guerrilla attack in 3 days has been reported in the Gaza Strip. A grenade thrown an Israeli army patrol wounded 2 Israeli soldiers and 10 Arab civilians. The present Back Bay Boston temperature is 44 degrees. Next news at 9:55.
WCSB, triple play, yesterday.
Grand Funk, get into my time machine.
WCSB, Toto Boston, today's sound.
Smokey Bill and the Miracles. The Tears of a Clown, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. WCSB, tomorrow's sound.
Brian Hyland is back again, the Gypsy Woman.
From nowhere, through a caravan.
Tomorrow's sound from WCSB in Boston. Gypsy Woman, Brian Hyland, and I can get into that song right there. It's 25 minutes before 10, 9:35, whichever you prefer.
Here's a health tip from the American Medical Association. The student who invests in a good breakfast gains dividends of better health and increased mental alertness. Scientific studies have shown that people who eat fruit, cereal, milk, bread, and butter before class get better grades and have a brighter outlook and more energy for outside activities. Don't go without breakfast. Your tired feeling during the day may come from an inadequate breakfast, a light lunch or not at all, and reliance on tiny snacks at all hours of the day. Even if you eat an adequate dinner, you may show a deficit for the day in nutrients. You'll be much more alert in class with a good breakfast before starting the day. Here's to your health.
WCSB, I'll light the fire today. WCSB, the most music she's in the street.
Number 27 this week for free. And everything's gonna be all right now. It is night and bitter cold. In an old deserted building, a little child sleeps. He is shivering in the thin and ragged clothes. Today he has had little to eat. Tomorrow will be no better, unless you will help him. You can help give a home and love and care in an orphanage affiliated with the Christian Children's Fund. Yes, you can help give a home to a homeless little orphan for only $10 a month. Write to the Christian Children's Fund, Richmond, Virginia. You're never too young or old to help. Don't let a child down, okay? Give to the Children's Fund, the Christian Children's Fund, Richmond, Virginia. All right, it's 16 before the hour of 10 now with Chris Warren till 11 o'clock this morning. Looks this way, fair this morning, followed by increasing cloudiness during the day, high in the 50s. Cloudy tonight with a low in the 40s. A chance of a few showers developing by morning. Tomorrow, cloudy with a chance of rain or drizzle, and the high temps will be in the 50s. Currently, the Back Bay temperature here in Boston and in the Kenmore Square area is 44 degrees.
Yesterday's sound.
The Bee Gees, Tomorrow, Tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tomorrow. It's a brand new month tomorrow. Getting very close to the end of the year. Gee, Christmas just around the corner. Let's not talk about that, actually. Haven't even started my shopping yet. Here's Thunderclap Newman. Song's been around for a while, finally making it something in the air. We've got to get it together. Listen to the sounds of Thunderclap Newman at 8 minutes before the hour of 10 now. Happy to have you here on a Saturday morn. Don't you go away. After the news, got another whole hour with you until 11 o'clock this morning. It's Chris Warren. And at 11, in for Jim Shannon this morning will be Steve Paul to take us up to sign off at 1:45. Here's Herb Alpert and the TJB. President Nixon continues his Republican election campaign in the West today. Floods rampage South Vietnam. Hijacked plane to return to Cuba today. WCSB Total Radio News continues following this message.
Be the Air Force ROTC officer on your campus today.
Rains in South Vietnam. The floods they brought are continuing, and forecasters say there's little hope of relief before the middle of next week. The rampaging waters already have cost 100 lives on the northern coast. About 150 persons have been evacuated from the area. That's 150,000 persons evacuated from the area, and the rice crop is reported 40% destroyed. Police raided a New Bedford garage and arrested between 30 and 40 persons yesterday. They were charged with violations ranging from disorderly conduct to possession of narcotics, including marijuana and heroin. Police said the North Front Street garage had been under police watch for some time. A number of firearms also were confiscated. The men and women, all apparently members of a motorcycle club called the Chosen Few, were brought to police headquarters in 3 van loads. President Nixon takes his plea for the election of Republicans to the Senate to 4 western states today: Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and New Mexico. In a speech last night in Anaheim, California, Mr. Nixon called Tuesday's election probably the most important Senate election in the nation's history. He said no protest for peace justifies violence. Democrat Kevin H. White, fighting to overcome a poor showing in the polls in the final 3 days of the campaign, blamed Republican Governor Francis Sargent Friday night for rising taxes, welfare costs, and growing number of jobless workers. The Boston mayor told a statewide television and radio audience it would take a Democratic governor to cure the problems. Sargent, appearing with White in a much-heralded debate, soft-pedaled his opponent's charges and called his 21-month record in office remarkable. The latest poll by the Boston Globe shows Republican Governor Francis Sargent leading Boston Mayor Kevin White in the race for the governorship. According to the poll, Sargent is leading by 51 to 39% margin. 72-year-old Edward Kelly, a former state representative and Democratic House leader, is dead. Kelly, who died yesterday, served in the House from 1923 to 1937 and was his party's leader in the lower chamber from 1925 to 1929 and 1934 to 35. He later was appointed Water Commissioner for the Metropolitan District Commission and retired in 1963 as business agent for the MDC. Survivors include his widow. Funeral services were scheduled for Tuesday. When Captain Carl Greenwood radioed Miami for Havana weather report last night, he didn't have to ask for directions, too. He'd made the trip once before with a hijacker's gun at his neck. No details are known about last night's hijacking of the San Francisco-bound National Airlines plane. Officials say the crew and passengers stayed in Havana Hotel and will return today. The Soviets today ridiculed the American contention that violations of Soviet airspace by U.S. aircraft have been accidental. The Soviets said such feelings originate from overseas bases used for espionage and other hostile activities. The Soviet government yesterday cleared the 2 U.S. consular officers to return to Armenia for a second meeting with 3 U.S. military officers whose plane crossed the Turkish border and landed October 21st. 2 Israeli soldiers and 10 Arab civilians were wounded in the main street of Gaza City today when a grenade was thrown at an Israeli army patrol. It was the 3rd guerrillas attack in 3 days in the area. In Beirut, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine said King Hussein's appointment of Wassitel as prime minister, was moved to push the guerrilla movement into another civil war. 5 counties in central Virginia have been warned to watch for flash floods set off by rains of 4 and 5 inches. But the warnings are considered just a precaution because the area has been parched by an autumn drought. Chile's president-elect has named 4 persons to key positions in his cabinet, 3 communists and a pro-Peking socialist. Salvador Allende, the president-elect, is an avid Marxist, the first freely elected chief executive in the Western Hemisphere. The 3 communists will control mining, the treasury, and public works. The socialists will be foreign minister. A coalition of anti-war groups will demonstrate in 40 cities in the United States and Canada today. They will demand an immediate withdrawal of all U.S. troops from Vietnam. Organizers of the demonstration said they expected about 500 demonstrators to take part in Washington, D.C. rally in Lafayette Park and across the street from the White House. Boston weather fair this morning, followed by slowly increasing cloudiness during the day, the high in the 50s. Cloudy tonight with the lows in the 40s, a chance of a few showers developing by morning. Tomorrow, cloudy with a chance of rain or drizzle, and the high temperatures in the 50s. The present Back Bay temperature is 44 degrees. This is Christopher Warren, WCSB Total Radio News.
WCSB, Boston.
Everybody is a star, and we'll even give that credit to Steve Paul, who will be tripping through the door and rolling in around 11 o'clock this morning. Don't you move. He'll be here, don't you worry.
WCSB, the most music.
Good-looking green eyes lady for Sugarloaf. Number 5 this week at WCSB in Boston. Good morning. You're with Chris Warren at 10 minutes. Let's make that 7 minutes after 10. Right. Look to Total Radio for total coverage on election night. WCSB will begin continuous coverage of Election 70 beginning at 6:30 on Tuesday, November 3rd. Find out the big decisions in your own state, as well as those in Boston, New England, and across the country. Turn to Total Radio WCSB for Election 70 coverage beginning at 6:30. Who was that man?
The most music, Total Radio.
Make it easy on yourself.
Yeah, good sound from Miss Dionne Warwick. Make it easy on yourself. I've heard that someplace before. I'm not really sure who did it before, but of course it's a great song, and it's number 28 this week from WCSB in Boston. Oh, yeah. Somebody's been sleeping in my bed. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Sure, I'll take your love. Actually, I'll take your request right now on the music line, 267-1042. Take your top 30 requests or your request for your favorite yesterday's sound. That number again, the music line, 267-1042. Good morning, it's 18 minutes after 10 as the 3 degrees roll it out. Alcohol is the largest single factor leading to highway crashes. Ideally, if you are going to drive, it would be better if you didn't drink anything at all, advises the licensed beverage industry. The American Medical Association states the best solution for the driver who drinks is to drink in such a manner that he will not be under the influence when he drives. Wait at least 1 hour for each average drink consumed before attempting to operate a motor vehicle.
WCSB number 1.
Took a long time getting there, but it belongs right at the top. The Carpenters, their second million seller in a row, and we've only just begun.
We've only just begun, and yes, we've just begun.
That's Carl Hammond's song right there. And if he gets his way, it'll be number 1 again next week. Tune him in between 4 and 6 this Monday afternoon as he counts them down one more time, okay? 21 minutes after 10 with the Carpenters. And right now, Rare Earth is going to get ready. You better get ready, too. Rumor has it Steve Paul will be in here around 11 o'clock this morning. You know what that means. If you don't, I'm not going to tell you. I'm sorry. "24 minutes after the hour of 10 in the AM side of a Chris Warren show. Get 44 degrees out in Kenmore Square, and we've had a lot of requests this morning, many requests, but I'm still coming back after the headlines, so sorry guys. Paul Moriat will take us up to headlines at 10:26. At 10:26, these stories make WCSB Total Radio News headlines. President Nixon will campaign for Republican candidates to the Senate in Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and New Mexico today. The Soviets ridiculed the U.S. contention today that U.S. aircraft violations of Soviet airspace has been accidental. The Russians are still holding 3 U.S. military officers whose plane crossed the Turkish border last week. South Vietnam's monsoon rains are forecast to continue into next week. So far, rampaging floodwaters have killed 100 persons and destroyed 40% of the rice crop. Officials say those aboard a National Airlines DC-8 jet hijacked to Cuba last night should come back to the States today. They stayed at a Havana hotel through the night. The present Boston temperature, 44 degrees. The next news at 10:55.
WCSB, tomorrow's sound.
Been a long time coming. My brother's keeper. WCSB, tomorrow's sound. 25 minutes before 10 with Chris Warren right on WCSB coming up till 11 o'clock this morning and Steve Paul
The
time.
most music, Total Radio.
I think after my show this morning I'll go out in the country. What is it? Massachusetts has no country? Okay, I don't live around here. I don't know about things like that. A scrap of food, some seed, the basic tools of farming. These are the dreams of many overpopulated and underdeveloped countries in the world today. Through the work of trained young men and women, the people of these nations are realizing that their dreams are the necessities that lead to a better way of life. Every society and culture revolves around others. Some are fortunate, others are not. Won't you lend a hand? Write Vista, Box B, Washington, D.C. Ooh, it's the Friends of Distinction. Hey, hey, yeah. And time waits for no one. Time waits for no one. Except the program director. make it 2 in a row right on WCSB in Boston at 18 minutes before 11. The sound of James, sweet baby James Taylor, and Fire and Rain. Fire and Rain for James Taylor at 15 minutes before 11 o'clock now. Looking at the door here, it's fair this morning. I don't know what I'm doing. Followed by slowly increasing cloudiness during the day. The high in the 50s. Cloudy tonight with the lows in the 40s. Chance of a few showers developing by tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, cloudy with a chance of rain or drizzle. The high temperatures in the 50s. Hi to you. It's 44, the Back Bay temperature. Do you own a car? You don't, huh? Well, I won't read this. No, if you do own a car, these facts can concern you. Last year, over 500,000 cars were stolen. That's one every 60 seconds, day in and day out, and night in and night out. Most of these were stolen by young kids, many just out for a joyride. That's the life of a crime that often begins, and you could be half the cause, too, you know. Think about this whenever you park your car, even if just for a minute. Every 60 seconds, day and night, a car will be stolen, maybe even yours. What can be done about it? Simple. Whenever you park, lock your car and take your keys. Don't help a good boy go bad. Here's Neil Diamond. Holly Holy. Early 1970 with the sound of Neil Diamond, my main man, and Holly Holy. 10 minutes before 11, 5 minutes left with the Chris Warren Mess on a Saturday morning. Happy Halloween to you. Here's Chicago. Does anybody really know what time it is?